Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Has there been an XRP money laundering scheme, or is it the case that certain XRP holders are being treated unfairly by a particular cryptocurrency exchange? We will get to the bottom of, well, we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of it, but we will highlight the concern here, and I will be tracking the story as things develop. But here's the headline from You Today. XRP Forensics requests Bitrue to make fair investigation of allegedly blocked trader accounts. Now, XRP Forensics, they've done an excellent job in combating fraudulent activity against, that would be to the detriment of XRP holders. And so if they're voicing a concern about this, I'm certainly going to pay attention here. And so I'm going to run through this, and then I have a story that I just found genuinely interesting. It's a just for fun type of thing. I think you'll like it too. And it's titled, Bitcoin has roughly the same amount of users as internet had in 1997, says a crypto expert. And I do like this picture that they included. It's a dirty old computer. I'll tell you what, I'm 37, so I'm old enough that I remember, and my family owned computers that looked not literally like this, but very similar to this computer and to this monitor. And in hindsight, oh my God, they were awful. But that's just by today's standards. I was very happy with my dial-up internet back then, for example, that every time you connected to the internet, it sounded like a goat was dying. You know what I'm talking about if you're not too young here. Most of you know, I bet. And holy hell! And then somebody's like, "Hey, you're Sarah from the internet. Hey, I've got to make a phone call. Could you get off of the internet?" Yeah, that was a thing because it required a phone line. You know what? I don't mind aging myself like that. That stuff, that technology, old technology, is hilarious to me. I still appreciate it. But all right, I'm getting off track. Let me get back on track. So here we go with XRP Forensics. XRP Forensics Company, which helps track down stolen funds and scam wallets, has tweeted to the co-founder and CEO of the Bitrue exchange, Curious Wang, about a group of traders whose accounts have allegedly been blocked. XRP Forensics has reminded Bitrue about helping the exchange to track down stolen XRP after the hack of 2019 and asked that the issue with the accounts be solved fairly. And so you see there's a tweet on the screen indicating as much. So, hi Bitrue and Curious Wang. We've heard from a group of traders who feel they have been unjustifiable. Is that a broken sentence? Who feel? Oh, I read it wrong. Who feel they have been unjustifiable? No, it's a broken sentence. Lost access to their assets as accounts have been frozen with various reasons provided. In some cases, even different reasons for the same users. But anyway, the piece continues. According to the tweet thread, a group of traders has contacted XRP Forensics to complain that Bitrue had frozen their accounts. Bitrue has provided various reasons, but sometimes they were different for the same users. So thus, according to the tweets, Bitrue suspected that multiple users had been using the same account and accused the traders of money laundering and taking part in degree arbitraging. And so the latter was a surprise for the XRP Forensics team, which asked why Bitrue had rules against arbitraging. Yeah, and so to my knowledge, and there could be there are all sorts of different laws all over this green and blue marble that we live on. But generally speaking, I am unaware of there being any sort of illegality surrounding arbitrage. It's just the idea. For those of you not familiar, just imagine you purchase a cryptocurrency on an exchange, you realize that it's selling for a higher price on a different exchange, because mind you, these exchanges are their own little sealed off environments, but they're aware of other environments that are cryptocurrency exchanges, and so that's the reason that markets end up leveling out. And so imagine that you do catch an instance where you're like, oh, I just bought this cryptocurrency, well, it's going for more on another one, why don't I just move it over to that exchange and sell it and take a small profit? Well, people do that. That's arbitrage, and I'm not aware of that being considered illegal, and without it you'd have much greater disparities between the perceived, like the actual price of the same crypto asset from exchange to exchange. And what you found as markets have matured over time is that arbitrage opportunities have shrunk as more people have entered the market and done their best to take advantage of them. But when markets were way less liquid than they are today, you could actually make, and people did, make livings off of this, just having insane returns. Like actual businesses were created out of this. I remember seeing all sorts of stories about businesses leading up to the very last market cycle, which culminated in Bitcoin hitting its peak of close to $20,000 in December of 2017. But in the years leading up to that, people were making a freaking killing because markets were so illiquid. It was just easy to engage in arbitrage. And so I don't know, I can't think of a single ethical or moral reason why that would be wrong. And if anything, it just seems to me it would just even out markets and, so there's more real sense of what an asset is worth the world over. But if something's illegal, okay, fine, it's illegal. But I don't even see that argument being made here, right? And so that's kind of what they were brought up here, what XRP Forensics cited here. And so he writes, if accused of illegal activities or breach of terms of use, please provide evidence to back the claims or provide means to withdraw. And also they're asking here again, why do you have rules against arbitraging? And so I don't know. I'm going to follow this though, because although I've never used Bitrue and I don't have an account, I was always planning on opening an account. This may influence whether or not I want to do that, but part of the reason is because they're continuing to allow the trade of XRP. And there are only 3 cryptocurrency exchanges in the United States that haven't halted it. So I don't know. Maybe I'd feel like I need to do it anyway if it's an off ramp. But I don't know. I just wanted to bring it to you guys' attention here. And I'll promise as soon as I hear anything on this, I'll provide additional updates. But that is where we are at now. But if I were one of those individuals, I would be none too pleased. I'll just say that. All right, so into this piece now. Bitcoin has roughly same amount of users as internet had in 1997, says Crypto Expert. A crypto trader and entrepreneur, Willy Woo, has shared his take on the current stage of Bitcoin adoption, likening the number of Bitcoin users to that of the internet in the early stages of the latter. Willy Woo believes that, at the moment, the total number of Bitcoin users is approximately the same as the World Wide Web had more than 20 years ago, back in 1997, when the internet was at an early stage. However, the expert reckons that Bitcoin adoption is expanding much faster than that of the internet. As per his expectations, in the next 4 years, there are likely to be a whopping 1 billion Bitcoin users, which is what the internet had back in 2005. Look, if the market has spoken and this is it, and Bitcoin is the store of value purely because it was the first cryptocurrency, fine. It's the standard. Okay, I'm happy to accept that as a Bitcoin holder myself. I've always thought it sounded weird because, like, why wouldn't the money just flow to cryptocurrencies that, are offering additional utility? But because there is no utility in and of itself, and that always didn't make logical sense to me. But I acknowledge, look, if the market's spoken, the market's spoken. It doesn't matter what I think. If I think that that's silly or doesn't make sense, fine. And I do still think it sounds silly on the surface. But if indeed it's going to maintain that position, I'm fine with that if that's what people want. I hold it, so there we go. But whatever. But, additional cryptocurrencies, if they're going to have staying power, they need to become the standard for something. And so if it's the case that just being the standard for a store of value purely because it's the first, if that's what people want, fine. But it really is purely because it's the first. There is nothing else, because technologically it's insufficient. But there you go. You don't need proof of work mining. You really don't. But anyway, here's a quote from Willy Woo. In terms of adoption, Bitcoin has roughly the same users as the internet had in 1997, but Bitcoin's growing faster. Next 4 years on current path will bring Bitcoin users to 1 billion people. That's the equivalent of 2005 for the internet. And so, if that ends up indeed being the case, if it's adopted at an exponential pace that even outpaces what happened with the internet, that in and of itself doesn't sound that bizarre to me, because you already have the information there, which is the internet, underpinning all of this. And on top of it, when you're talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, you're talking about something that has a price associated with it, value, even if you just want to call it store of value. If there's a price associated with it, it does seem that it would attract more attention faster, especially given that there are already the underpinnings of the internet the world over. It's already in place. But anyway, in one of his previous tweets, Wu stated that Bitcoin adoption is growing not only faster than the number of internet users, but also faster than mobile phones and the virtual banking provided by companies like PayPal. And then they have a little subheading, Bitcoin whales briefly surpassed mid-tier Bitcoin users for first time ever. A sentiment analytics agency has shared that the number of Bitcoin whales, i.e. wallets holding 1,000 or more coins, have briefly exceeded the number of addresses that hold from 10 to 1,000 Bitcoin by percent of supply for the first time in the blockchain's history. The agency tweets that owners of mid-tier Bitcoin wallets are taking profits, so holders of large wallets are likely to dictate price direction more and more. So interesting stuff here. It's always funny to there really are a ton of parallels between what's happening with the adoption of cryptocurrencies just as an asset class, and those parallels against what happened with the internet, the first internet, as it's being called now. I didn't know we'd ever consider ourselves to have a second internet, but we're talking about the internet of information, that's the first one, versus the internet of value, which is the second one here. But even in terms of the hype cycle, you did have one major bubble with the dot-com boom and bust, and after that things got a lot more rational. And that kind of makes sense because you look at it's an interesting parallel since it has been happening with crypto, but you look at crypto, you're like, well, how the hell is it that it's been 12 years now and we've had multiples of those types of cycles? Well, there are a couple reasons. First of all, it's global, so there is that. Market cycles do happen faster because they trade 24/7. With the dot-com boom and bust, you're mostly just talking about the United States, let's be real here, right? And really just, as far as figuring out where it makes sense to have money go, I think it's harder to figure that out for cryptocurrencies than it is just for business ideas with a .com in general. And so it does make sense to me that people are there's these market cycles that just keep inflating and popping, and there's always higher lows. Historically, there always have been with each successive market cycle. That in and of itself doesn't sound odd to me because the vast majority of the cryptocurrencies in existence today, and there are over 7,000 of them, almost none of them do anything, right? Almost none of them. And so it's not clear at this point how many cryptos and which ones will be the long-term winners. And so this is just a prolonged instance of people trying to figure that out. But it's like people can tell there is something there. There are things that can be done without, that couldn't be done without this technology. But it's just not clear to this point. And so as a result, people are not sufficiently parsing out the differences between these cryptocurrencies during the hype part of these market cycles, which is pretty much where we are now. And that's why everything's pumping currently. And we are nowhere near the top, I suspect, in terms of market cap. So it is exciting to be here regardless. But at some point, utility will sufficiently matter. I just don't know when, frankly. But I'll go ahead and wrap up there. Thank you for stopping by, my friends. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.